Admiral Kang stared at the holographic display floating above his desk. The blue light made his tired face look older than his 50 years. He had been studying the same data for 3 hours now. Each time he looked at it, the numbers seemed more impossible. The Galactic Defense Academy kept detailed records of every training exercise, every simulation, every mission. For the past 10 years, these files showed something that should not exist. In every single deadly training accident, one name appeared on the survivor list. Always the same name, Kim Nari. The Admiral rubbed his eyes and called up the first file. Titan Station Simulation, 3 years ago. 47 cadets entered the advanced combat training. The simulation was supposed to test their skills against enemy boarding parties. Something went wrong with the computer systems. The safety protocols failed. The simulation became real. 23 cadets died that day. Their bodies were found in the training chambers, killed by malfunctioning combat drones. The weapons were supposed to fire harmless energy beams. Instead, they fired real plasma bolts. Only one cadet survived the full 8 hours until rescue teams arrived. Kim Nari had hidden in a maintenance shaft. She stayed there while her classmates died around her. When the rescue teams found her, she was unconscious from lack of oxygen. But she was alive. Admiral Kang moved to the next file. The Void Walker. Mission 2 years ago. This was supposed to be a simple spacewalk training exercise. Cadets would practice repairs on the outside of a space station. The magnetic boots malfunctioned. 15 cadets floated away into the darkness of space. 14 bodies were never recovered. They drifted too far from the station before rescue. Ships could reach them. But one cadet managed to grab onto a communication antenna. She held on for 6 hours in the freezing vacuum of space. Her suit was damaged. The life support was failing. Kim Nari was pulled back to the station with severe hypothermia and radiation poisoning. She spent 2 weeks in the medical bay. But she lived. The Admiral opened file after file. Each one told the same impossible story. Training exercises that became death traps. Simulations that turned into real battles. Equipment failures that killed entire squads of cadets. And always, Kim Nari walked away. The Crimson Nebula war game killed 18 cadets when their ship exploded. Nari survived in an escape pod. The Deep Space Patrol exercise ended when alien pirates attacked the training convoy. 21 cadets died fighting them off. Nari hid in the cargo bay until help arrived. The Crystal Cave mission on Kepler 442b was supposed to teach cadets about hostile environments. Poisonous gas filled the cave system. 12 cadets died from breathing the toxic fumes. Nari found an air pocket and waited for rescue. Every single time, she was the only survivor. Not one of these disasters had any other survivors except her. Admiral Kang leaned back in his chair. This was not possible. No one could be this lucky. No one survived everything while everyone else died. There had to be a reason. He called up Nari's personal file. The data showed a completely ordinary human female. Age 21. Born on Earth in the old Korean Peninsula region. Average height and weight. No genetic modifications. No cybernetic implants. No enhanced physical abilities. Her test scores were normal. Not excellent, just normal. She passed her classes with decent grades, but nothing special. Her instructors described her as quiet and hardworking. She followed orders without question. She never caused trouble. There was nothing in her file that explained how she survived when others died. The Admiral touched his communication device. "Get me Dr. Park Juno," he said. Dr. Park Juno was the Academy's chief xenobiologist. He studied how different alien species learned and fought. If anyone could explain this mystery, it would be him. 10 minutes later, Dr. Park entered the Admiral's office. He was a tall man with gray hair and intelligent eyes. He had studied dozens of alien races during his 30 years at the Academy. "Admiral Kang," Dr. Park said as he sat down. "You wanted to see me?" "I need your opinion on something," the Admiral replied. He activated the holographic display. "Look at these files. Tell me what you see." Dr. Park studied the data for several minutes. His expression grew more puzzled as he read each file. Finally, he looked up at the Admiral. This is impossible, Dr. Park said. No single person could survive all of these disasters. The odds are billions to one against it. That's what I thought too, Admiral Kang said. But the data is real. Every file has been verified. Kim Nari really did survive all of these incidents. Where is she now? Dr. Park asked. In her dormitory, probably studying for tomorrow's tactical analysis exam. She has no idea that I'm looking at her file. Dr. Park was quiet for a moment. Then he said, Admiral, I think we need to consider the possibility that humans have some survival trait that we don't understand. What do you mean? Every other species at the Academy has clear advantages. The Queth have crystal armor that protects them from energy weapons. The Luminar can phase through solid matter. The Nexari share a collective mind that helps them coordinate in battle. Dr. Park pointed at the files. But humans seem ordinary. No special powers, no enhanced abilities. Yet this human keeps surviving when everyone else dies. Maybe being ordinary is actually their advantage. Admiral Kang frowned. How can being ordinary be an advantage? I don't know yet. But I want to find out. Can you give me permission to study Kim Nari? Not directly, of course. She shouldn't know what we're doing. But I want to observe her. Study how she acts during training exercises. The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. War with the Vorthan Empire was coming. Everyone knew it. The Academy needed every advantage they could find. If humans really had some unknown survival ability, they needed to understand it. Permission, granted, Admiral Kang said. But be careful. If she finds out what we're doing, it could affect her performance. And right now she might be the most valuable cadet we have. Dr. Park nodded. I'll be discreet. Give me a few weeks to observe her, then I'll report back with my findings. As Dr. Park left the office, Admiral Kang looked at the holographic display one more time. Kim Nari's face stared back at him from her Academy photo. She looked so young and ordinary. Nothing about her suggested she was special, but the data did not lie. In a galaxy full of aliens with amazing abilities, this ordinary human girl was the ultimate survivor. The Admiral closed the files and leaned back in his chair. War was coming, and humanity's secret weapon might be sitting in a dormitory room, completely unaware of how important she had become. Dr. Park Juno watched from the observation deck as Kim Nari walked into the combat training room. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she had been studying late again. Her uniform was wrinkled but clean. She carried herself like someone who expected nothing special to happen. The training room buzzed with activity. 20 cadets from different species prepared for the morning exercise. Blue-skinned Queth cadets checked their crystal armor. The tall, thin Luminar. Cadets tested their phase-shifting abilities. A group of Nexari stood in perfect formation, their minds connected through invisible mental links. And in the middle of it all, Kim Nari stretched her arms and yawned. Dr. Park activated his recording device. For 2 weeks now, he had watched every training session Nari attended. He was starting to see patterns that the official reports had missed. The exercise began. It was a simple combat scenario. Cadets had to work in teams to capture enemy positions in a mock city environment. The training weapons fired harmless energy, bolts that would disable opponents without causing injury. Dr. Park watched as Nari joined a team with 3 other cadets. Tae-Hyun was a human from the Centauri colonies. He was brilliant at tactical planning and always scored high on strategy tests. Li Wu was a cyborg from Mars with enhanced reflexes and computer-assisted targeting. The 4th member was a Keth named Borek, whose crystal armor could deflect most energy weapons. A strong team. Dr. Park expected them to do well in the exercise. The whistle blew, and the cadets spread out through the mock city. Nari's team was assigned to capture the central communications tower. It should have been straightforward. Dr. Park watched through multiple camera angles as the teams moved through the streets. Everything seemed normal at first. Then something went wrong with the training weapons. Instead of firing harmless energy bolts, some of the guns began shooting real plasma. The safety monitors didn't notice the malfunction right away. 3 cadets from other teams were seriously injured before the exercise was stopped. But Dr. Park wasn't watching them. He was watching Kim Nari. When the weapon started firing real plasma, Nari was crossing an open courtyard with her team. Tae-hyun was hit in the shoulder by a plasma bolt and went down screaming. Lee Woo's enhanced reflexes should have saved him, but a second bolt caught him in the chest. His cybernetic systems sparked and failed. Borek raised his crystal armor to protect the team, but the plasma was too hot. The crystal cracked and shattered. He fell backward, unconscious from the energy feedback. Nari was alone in the middle of the courtyard with plasma bolts flying all around her. Dr. Park watched her dive behind a concrete barrier. She stayed there for 30 seconds while the shooting continued. Then she did something unexpected. Instead of waiting for rescue, Nari crawled across the courtyard to where Tae-hyun lay bleeding. She grabbed him under the arms and dragged him to safety behind another barrier. Then she went back for Lee Woo, even though his cyborg body was much heavier than hers. Dr. Park watched in amazement as this ordinary human girl made 3 trips across the dangerous courtyard. Each time, plasma bolts missed her by inches. Each time she brought one of her wounded teammates to safety. She even dragged the unconscious Borek to cover, though he weighed twice as much as she did. By the time the safety team stopped the exercise, Nari had saved all 3 of her teammates. She was exhausted and her uniform was torn, but she was unhurt. Dr. Park made notes in his report. This was not luck. Nari had deliberately put herself in danger to save others. She had made quick decisions under pressure that saved lives. But she had done it in a way that seemed to ensure her own survival too. After the medical teams took care of the wounded cadets, Dr. Park found Tae-hyun in the infirmary. The young man's shoulder was bandaged, but he would recover quickly. "Tell me about Kim Nari," Dr. Park said, sitting beside the bed. Tae-hyun looked surprised. "Nari? Why do you want to know about her?" "Just curious. You've trained with her before?" "Yeah, lots of times." Tae-hyun adjusted his position carefully. "She's weird." "Weird how?" "She never panics. Even when everything goes wrong, she stays calm. Like today, when the weapons malfunctioned. Everyone else was screaming or running around crazy. But Nari just looked around and figured out what to do." Dr. Park nodded. "Anything else?" "She always seems to know when something bad is about to happen. Like 5 minutes before the Titan station simulation went crazy. She told us we should check the backup power systems. We thought she was being paranoid, but if we had listened to her, maybe some of those cadets would still be alive." This was new information. Dr. Park leaned forward. "She predicted the malfunction?" "Not exactly. She just said something felt wrong. She gets these feelings sometimes. Most of us ignore her because she's so quiet and ordinary. But maybe we should pay more attention." Dr. Park left the infirmary with more questions than answers. He found Lee Woo in the cybernetics repair bay, getting his damaged systems fixed. "Kim Nari saved your life today," Dr. Park said. Lee Woo nodded. His voice sounded mechanical while his vocal systems were being repaired. "She has done this before. Always when things go bad, she makes choices that save people." "What kind of choices?" "During the Voidwalker exercise, she told everyone to double-check their magnetic boot connections. Most cadets ignored her. The ones who listened to her advice were the ones who didn't float away when the boots failed." Dr. Park felt his pulse quicken. "She predicted that malfunction too?" "She predicts lots of things, small things that seem unimportant until they save your life. I have been running probability calculations. The chances of her being right so often are very small." "How small?" 1 in several million, unless she has access to information the rest of us do not have." Dr. Park spent the rest of the day reviewing old exercise recordings. He looked for moments when Kim Nari had given warnings or made suggestions that others ignored. He found dozens of examples, small things mostly, suggestions to take different routes, advice to carry extra equipment, warnings about weather conditions, or equipment problems. Most of the time, other cadets ignored her suggestions. She was too quiet and ordinary for them to take seriously. But when they did listen to her, they survived situations that killed others. Dr. Park was beginning to understand. That Kim Nari was not just lucky. She was not just good at surviving. She was good at keeping others alive too, but she could only save the people who trusted her enough to listen. That evening, Dr. Park filed his preliminary report with Admiral Kang. His conclusion was simple but disturbing. Kim Nari seemed to have some kind of early warning system that let her detect danger before it happened. Whether this was a human trait or something unique to her, they needed to find out quickly. War was coming, and this ordinary-looking girl might be the key to keeping humanity alive. Admiral Kang stood in the secret observation room deep beneath the academy. Through the reinforced glass, he could see the largest training chamber ever built. It was designed to test cadets in the most dangerous situations possible. Today, it would test Kim Nari. "Are you sure about this?" Dr. Park Juno asked. He looked worried as he checked the monitoring equipment. "We need to know her limits," the Admiral replied. "War is coming. If she really has some special ability, we have to understand it completely." The plan was simple but dangerous. They would put Nari in increasingly deadly situations with different alien species as teammates. If she survived and saved others, they would know her ability worked with any species. If she failed, at least they would learn something before the real war began. Nari entered the chamber with 5 other cadets. She had no idea this was a special test. As far as she knew, it was just another advanced training exercise. Her teammates represented different alien species. Doro was a Queth with crystal armor that could deflect energy weapons. Vex was a Luminar who could phase through solid matter. 2 Nexari named Jin and Ko shared a mental connection that let them coordinate perfectly. The last teammate was Borek, the same Queth who had been with her during the plasma weapon malfunction. "Today you will navigate an asteroid field," the instructor announced over the speaker system. "Your ship has been damaged. You must repair it while avoiding enemy drones. Work together to survive." The chamber walls disappeared, replaced by a holographic space environment. Asteroids floated all around them. Their ship was a small transport vessel with obvious damage to its hull and engines. Nari looked around carefully. Something felt wrong, but she could not identify what it was. The asteroid seemed normal. The ship looked like standard Academy training equipment, but her instincts were screaming at her to be careful. "We should check the life support systems first," she said quietly. Doro laughed. "The life support is fine. Look at the readouts." "The engines are more important," Vex added. "If we cannot move, the drones will destroy us." The Nexari Jin and Ko nodded in agreement. They had already started working on the engine repairs using their shared mental connection to coordinate their efforts. Nari wanted to argue, but she was used to being ignored. Instead, she went to check the life support systems by herself. What she found made her blood run cold. The oxygen recyclers were set to fail in exactly 30 minutes. It was not obvious from the control panel readings, but someone had programmed a delayed shutdown into the system. When the recyclers stopped working, everyone in the ship would suffocate within an hour. This was not a normal training exercise. This was a real test of survival. "Everyone," Nari called out. "The life support is going to fail. We have maybe 30 minutes before we start running out of air." "That is impossible," Doro said. "The readouts show everything is normal." "The readouts are lying," Nari replied. She showed them the hidden programming in the system. "Look at this code. Someone wants us to think we are safe until it is too late." Vex phased over to examine the system. His energy form could interface directly with computer systems. After a few seconds, his form solidified and his expression was grim. "She is right," Vex said. "The life support will fail in 28 minutes. Now everyone was paying attention. Jin and Ko stopped working on the engines and focused their shared mind on the life support problem. Borek began checking other systems to see what else might be sabotaged. "Can you fix it?" Nari asked Vex. "Maybe. But I need time, and the repair will require shutting down life support completely for at least 10 minutes. We cannot survive 10 minutes without air," Doro said. Nari was already thinking. The ship had emergency oxygen tanks for spacewalks. If they could connect those tanks to the internal air system, They might have enough oxygen to survive while Vex made repairs. But there was a problem. The emergency tanks were mounted on the outside of the ship. Someone would have to go out into space to connect them. The asteroid field was full of debris that could puncture a spacesuit, and enemy drones were patrolling the area. "I will go outside and connect the emergency tanks," Nari said. "That is suicide," Borek said. "The drones will see you immediately." "Not if you keep them distracted. Use the ship's weapons to make them focus on you instead of me." It was a desperate plan. The ship's weapons were damaged and could barely fire. The drones were fast and heavily armed. Anyone going outside would be completely vulnerable, but it was their only chance. Nari put on a spacesuit while her teammates prepared to distract the drones. She checked every seal twice, knowing that one small mistake would kill her in the vacuum of space. As she prepared to leave the ship, something strange happened. The Nexari Jinn approached her. "Our mental connection lets us sense things about other people," Jinn said quietly. "We can feel something different about you. Something that helps you survive when others die." "What do you mean?" Nari asked. "You make choices that seem wrong but turn out right. You see dangers that others miss. We do not understand it, but we trust it. If you say the life support will fail, we believe you. If you say you can fix it by going outside, we will help you." Nari felt a strange warmth at those words. Most people thought she was just paranoid or overly cautious, but Jin and Co. understood that her instincts were usually right. She opened the airlock and stepped out into space. The asteroid field stretched in all directions, lit by the glow of distant stars. Enemy drones moved between the rocks like deadly, metal insects. Behind her, the ship's damaged weapons began firing at the drones. The energy bolts were weak, but they got the drones' attention. The mechanical hunters turned away from Nari and focused on the ship. Nari pushed off from the airlock and floated toward the emergency oxygen tanks. Moving in zero gravity while wearing a bulky spacesuit was difficult, but she had practiced this many times. She reached the first tank and began connecting it to the ship's internal air system. A drone spotted her just as she finished with the first tank. It turned toward her, weapons charging. Nari pushed herself toward the second tank, knowing she could not outrun the drone's weapons, but instead of firing at her, the drone suddenly exploded. Ko had managed to hit it with one lucky shot from the ship's damaged guns. Nari connected the second tank and then the third. By the time she made it back to the airlock, her teammates had destroyed 2 more drones and damaged a third. Inside the ship, Vex began working on the life support repairs. The emergency oxygen tanks gave them just enough air to survive while he fixed the sabotaged system. 20 minutes later, the life support was working perfectly. The remaining drones had been destroyed. The ship's engines were repaired enough to get them out of the asteroid field. They had survived another impossible situation, and once again, Kim Nari had been the key to everyone's survival. In the secret observation room, Admiral Kang and Dr. Park watched as the cadets celebrated their success. Neither man was celebrating. "She did it again," Dr. Park said. "She spotted the danger first. She made the right choice under pressure, and she kept everyone else alive." "But this time was different," Admiral Kang replied. "This time, some of her teammates listened to her from the beginning. They trusted her instincts, instead of ignoring them." Dr. Park nodded. "The Nexari said they could sense something different about her. Maybe other species can learn to recognize human survival instincts. Maybe. But we need to know more. Set up another test. Make it even harder this time." As the cadets left the training chamber, none of them noticed the hidden cameras recording their every move. They had no idea that their survival was being studied and analyzed by the Academy's top scientists. All they knew was that once again, Kim Nari had saved their lives. And slowly, they were beginning to understand that this quiet, human girl might be the most dangerous person in the galaxy. Kim Nari sat at her desk in the Academy's computer lab, finishing a routine assignment on Starship navigation systems. The work was simple, just calculating jump routes between star systems. She had finished early and decided to explore some of the Academy's databases to learn more about galactic history. That was when she found the files she was never supposed to see. Her security clearance was low, meant only for basic cadet access. But a glitch in the system had accidentally given her access to classified research files. At first, she did not understand what she was looking at. Then she saw her own name. File after file contained detailed analysis of her training exercises, camera footage from dozens of angles showing her every move during dangerous situations, medical scans of her brain and body, psychological evaluations she had never agreed to take, and interviews. Hours of recorded conversations with her fellow cadets, all talking about her survival abilities. Nari's hands shook as she opened a video file labeled Cadet Survival Analysis, Subject N1. On the screen, Dr. Park Juno was speaking to Admiral Kang. The subject shows consistent ability to predict dangerous situations before they occur, Dr. Park was saying. Her survival rate in lethal scenarios is statistically impossible. We believe she represents a previously unknown human adaptation. Subject N1. They were talking about her like she was a laboratory animal. Nari watched video after video. She saw herself in the Titan station simulation, hiding in the maintenance shaft while her classmates died. She saw herself in the Voidwalker exercise, clinging to the communication antenna while others floated away into space. She saw herself in the recent asteroid field test, connecting oxygen tanks while drones hunted her. Every moment of pain and terror she had experienced was recorded and analyzed. Every friend she had lost was just data in their research. The worst part was learning that the recent training exercises had been deliberately designed to be deadly. Admiral Kang had been testing her limits, using her teammates as unknowing test subjects. Some of those people could have died just to see if she could save them. Nari felt sick. She stumbled out of the computer lab and ran to her dormitory room. Her roommate was at evening classes, so she was alone with her thoughts. Everything made sense now. The way instructors sometimes watched her more carefully than other students. The way certain training exercises seemed designed to go wrong at exactly the right moment. The way she always seemed to end up in the most dangerous situations. She was not a cadet. She was an experiment. Nari spent the night staring at the ceiling, trying to decide what to do. She could confront Admiral Kang and demand answers. She could request a transfer to a different academy. She could even leave the military entirely and return to Earth. But there was another problem. War with the Vorthan Empire was coming. Everyone at the academy knew it. Intelligence reports showed Vorthan fleets gathering at the edges of human space. Diplomacy had failed. Fighting was inevitable. If she really did have some special ability to survive dangerous situations, maybe humanity needed her. Maybe her survival instinct could help win the war. But she was tired of being the only one who lived while others died. The next morning, Nari made her decision. She went to Dr. Park Juno's office and knocked on the door. "Come in," Dr. Park called. Nari entered and closed the door behind her. Dr. Park looked up from his computer and seemed surprised to see her. "Cadet Kim," he said, "what can I do for you?" "I know about the research," Nari said simply. Dr. Park's face went pale. "I don't understand." Subject N1, the survival analysis files, the deliberately dangerous training exercises. "I know you have been studying me like a laboratory specimen." Dr. Park was quiet for a long moment. Then he sighed and gestured for her to sit down. "How did you find out?" he asked. "Computer glitch gave me access to classified files. I saw everything. The recordings, the interviews, the analysis reports. See?" Dr. Park rubbed his forehead. "What do you want to do about it?" "I want to leave the academy," Nari said. "I am tired of being the only survivor. I am tired of watching my friends die while you take notes about my reactions." "You cannot leave," Dr. Park said quietly. "Why not?" "Because war is coming. And you might be humanity's best chance of surviving it." Dr. Park activated his computer screen and showed her classified intelligence reports. Vorthan battle fleets were massing near the human colonies. Their bioships were more advanced than anything humanity had ever faced. The Vorthons have been studying us too, Dr. Park explained. They know about human military tactics and technology, but they do not know about you. They do not know that some humans have survival instincts that defy logic. You think I can win a war by myself? No, but you can teach others how to survive. You can help human soldiers stay alive in situations where alien tactics would fail. Nari looked at the intelligence reports. The Vorthon fleets were massive. Each bioship carried thousands of warriors. Their weapons could destroy entire planets. What, if I cannot do what you think I can do? She asked. Then humanity dies, Dr. Park said bluntly. The Vorthons are stronger than us, faster than us, more advanced than us. Our only advantage is that we survive things that should kill us. And you are the best example of that trait we have ever found. Before Nari could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the academy. Red lights flashed in the corridors. Emergency communication system crackled to life. All cadets report to battle stations immediately, the voice announced. This is not a drill. Hostile forces are approaching the academy. All cadets report to battle stations. Dr. Park and Nari ran to the nearest window. In the distance, they could see dark shapes moving against the stars. Bioships. Dozens of them, their organic hulls pulsing with alien light. The Vorthon Empire had not waited for war to be declared. They had come to destroy the academy and eliminate humanity's best military minds before the real fighting began. They know, Dr. Park said quietly. They know about our research. They are here to kill you before you can become a threat to them. Nari watched as the first Vorthon bioship fired its weapons at the academy's outer defenses. Energy bolts that looked like living lightning struck the defensive shields and began eating through them like acid. She thought about all the friends who had died in training exercises while she survived. She thought about all the classified files analyzing her every move. She thought about being treated like a laboratory experiment instead of a person. But she also thought about Earth, about the billions of humans who would die if the Vorthons won this war, about all the other species in the galaxy who would become slaves if humanity fell. Where do you want me? She asked Dr. Park. He looked surprised. You will help us? I will help humanity survive, Nari corrected. But when this is over, we are going to have a serious discussion about treating people like test subjects. Dr. Park nodded. Fair enough. Right now, we need to get to the command center. If the academy falls, the Vorthons will have access to all our military databases. As they ran through the corridors toward the command center, Nari felt the familiar tingle of danger that had saved her life so many times before. But this time, it was not just her life at stake. This time she had to save everyone. The academy shook as more Vorthon weapons struck the outer hull. Emergency lights cast everything in red shadows. Smoke began filling the corridors as life support systems failed. Nari realized that for the first time in her life, she was not trying to survive an accident or a training exercise gone wrong. She was in a real battle, and the enemy wanted her, dead. But she was not afraid. She had survived everything else. She would survive this too. And maybe, if she was lucky, she could keep some of her friends alive this time. The Academy Command Center was chaos. Officers shouted orders while screens showed Vorthon bioships swarming around the station like angry insects. The defensive shields were failing. Hull breaches were spreading through the outer sections. Emergency evacuation alarms wailed continuously. Admiral Kang stood at the central command station, his face grim as he watched the tactical display. 23 Vorthon bioships had surrounded the Academy. Each one was the size of a small moon, their organic hulls pulsing with weapons that fired living energy. Evacuation shuttles are launching from Base 7, an officer reported. But the fourth hands are targeting them. We have lost 4 shuttles already. What about the distress signal? Admiral Kang asked. Sent, sir, but the nearest fleet is 6 hours away. We do not have 6 hours. Kim Nari and Dr. Park Juno entered the command center just as another section of the academy exploded. Through the reinforced windows, they could see debris and bodies floating in space. Admiral, Dr. Park called out, The Vorthans are not just attacking randomly. They are targeting specific sections of the Academy. Admiral Kang turned to face them. What do you mean? Look at the damage pattern. They hit the records archive first, then the research laboratories. Now they are focusing on the dormitory, sections where cadets live. Dr. Park activated a holographic display showing the Academy's layout. Red marks indicated areas that had been destroyed or damaged. There was a clear pattern to the attacks. They know about our research, Dr. Park continued. They are systematically destroying anything related to human survival traits, and they are hunting for specific individuals. They are looking for me, Nari said quietly. Admiral Kang stared at her. How do you know? Because that is what I would do. If I knew the enemy had a weapon that could help them win the war, I would try to destroy it before the fighting started. Another explosion rocked the Academy. This time, it was close enough to knock people off their feet. The lights flickered and several computer screens went dark. Structural integrity at 60%, an officer reported. We are losing atmosphere in sections 12 through 18. How many people are trapped in those sections? Admiral Kang asked. Approximately 300 cadets and 50 instructors. Nari felt the familiar tingle of danger that always preceded disaster. But this time it was stronger than ever before. Her instincts were screaming at her that something terrible was about to happen. Admiral, she said urgently, we need to evacuate the command center, right now. That is impossible. We are coordinating the defense from here. The Vorthans are not trying to destroy the Academy, Nari said, her voice growing more urgent. They are trying to capture it, and they know exactly where the command center is. How could they possibly know that? Before Nari could answer, the air in the command center began to shimmer. A strange sweet smell filled the room. Several officers started coughing. Gas attack, someone shouted. Seal the ventilation systems. But it was too late. The Vorthon bioweapons were already in the air supply. Most alien species were vulnerable to the Vorthon neural toxins. Within seconds, Queth cadets collapsed as their crystal armor could not protect against airborne attacks. Luminar cadets tried to phase out of their physical forms but found they could not maintain energy coherence. Nixari mental connections were severed as the toxins disrupted their shared consciousness. Dr. Park Juno fell to his knees, struggling to breathe. Admiral Kang clutched his chest and collapsed against the command station. But Nari was still standing. The toxins that paralyzed other species seemed to have little effect on her. She felt dizzy and nauseous, but she could still think clearly. She could still move. Around her, the command center filled with Vorthon warriors. They had somehow teleported through the Academy's shields using their bioship technology. They were tall and thin, with gray skin that looked like living metal. Their weapons were grown rather than manufactured, extending from their arms like organic cannons. One of the Vorthons stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice sounded like grinding metal. Where is the human-designated subject N1? It demanded. Nari realized that the Vorthons had been monitoring human communications. They knew about the Academy's research. They knew about her survival abilities, and they had come to eliminate her before she could become a threat. I am Kim Nari, she said, stepping forward. The Vorthon leader studied her with eyes like black glass. You do not appear dangerous. Most people say that. Our intelligence indicates you possess unusual survival capabilities. This presents a threat to Vorthon military superiority. Your intelligence is correct. The Vorthon raised its weapon arm. The organic cannon began charging with deadly energy. Then, you will be eliminated. Nari's survival instincts kicked into overdrive. She could see multiple possible futures branching out from this moment. In most of them, she died. In some, she survived, but everyone else in the Academy was killed. But there was one possibility where she could save not just herself, but everyone. It required her to do something that seemed completely insane. Wait, she said to the Vorthon leader. Before you kill me, let me show you why humans are so dangerous. The Vorthon paused. Explain. Nari walked over to the command station where Admiral Kang lay unconscious. She began typing commands into the Academy's main computer system. Other species fight with logic and strategy, she said as she worked. They use their strengths and try to minimize their weaknesses, but humans do something different. We turn our weaknesses into strengths. This means nothing to us. It means everything. Nari finished typing and looked up at the Vorthon leader. You came here to eliminate me because you know I can survive things that should kill me, but what you do not know is how I do it. The Vorthon weapons tracked her as she moved away from the command station. Enlighten us. I survive by being willing to die. Nari pressed a button on the command console. Throughout the academy, a new alarm began sounding. But this was not an evacuation alarm. This was something much more dangerous. What have you done? The Vorthon leader demanded. I have activated the Academy's experimental warp core, Nari said calmly. In exactly 5 minutes, it will overload and create a space-time distortion large enough to trap your entire fleet. The Vorthons looked at each other with what might have been concern. Their leader stepped closer to Nari. You will die as well. Probably, but my death will save millions of humans. That is what makes us dangerous. We are willing to sacrifice ourselves to protect others. This is irrational. This is human. The Vorthon leader began barking orders in its own language. The other warriors started running toward their teleportation points, trying to return to their bioships before the warp core exploded. But Nari was not finished yet. She had one more card to play. There is one way to stop the overload, she called out as the Vorthons prepared to retreat. Someone has to manually stabilize the warp core from inside the reactor chamber. It can be done, but whoever does it will be vaporized when the reaction stabilizes. The Vorthon leader stopped. You would do this? I would. But only if you agree to leave the academy and never attack human civilians. We do not negotiate with inferior species. Then we all die together. In 4 minutes and 30 seconds, Nari could see the Vorthon leader calculating probabilities. It could kill her now and let the warp core destroy both the academy and the Vorthon fleet, or it could agree to her terms and retreat with most of its forces intact. For a species that prided itself on logical decision-making, the choice was obvious. We accept your terms, the Vorthon leader said finally. But if you survive this, we will hunt you across the galaxy. If I survive this, you are welcome to try. The Vorthons teleported back to their bioships. Within seconds, the massive fleet was pulling away from the academy, trying to get outside the range of the warp core explosion. Nari looked around the command center. Dr. Park Juno was starting to recover from the neural toxins. Admiral Kang was unconscious but breathing. The other officers were slowly getting back to their feet. Nari, Dr. Park said weakly. What did you do? What I always do, she replied. I found a way for everyone to survive. She walked toward the exit, heading for the warp core chamber. Someone had to manually stabilize the reaction, and she was the only one who could do it. But as she reached the door, she realized something important. For the first time in her life, she was not the only survivor. She had managed to save everyone in the academy. All the cadets, all the instructors, even the Vorthon warriors who had attacked them. Maybe this time, nobody had to die. Maybe this time she could find a way to save everyone, including herself. Kim Nari ran through the academy's corridors toward the warp core chamber. Emergency lights cast red shadows on the walls. The deck plates vibrated under her feet as the experimental reactor built toward critical overload. 3 minutes and 47 seconds remaining. She passed groups of cadets helping each other toward the evacuation points. Many of them were still recovering from the Vorthon neural toxins. Tai Hyun saw her running and called out, Nari, where are you going? The evacuation shuttles are this way. Someone has to stabilize the warp core, she called back without stopping. That is a suicide mission, Li Wu said. His cybernetic systems were back online after the gas attack. The reactor chamber will be flooded with deadly radiation. I know. Then why are you doing it? Nari stopped running for just a moment. She looked back at her friends, the people she had saved so many times before. People who had finally learned to trust her instincts and listen to her warnings. Because this time I am not trying to be the sole survivor. she said. This time I am trying to make sure nobody dies. She continued running toward the reactor chamber. Behind her, she could hear Tae-hyun and Li Woo arguing about whether to follow her. 2 minutes and 18 seconds remaining. The warp core chamber was deep in the Academy's engineering section. As Nari got closer, she could feel the energy build up through the deck plates. The experimental reactor was designed to create controlled tiers in space-time for faster-than-light travel. But when it overloaded, it would create an uncontrolled distortion that could trap anything within several light years. The Vorthon fleet was retreating as fast as their bioships could move, but they would not escape in time. Neither would the Academy, unless someone stabilized the reaction manually. Nari reached the heavily shielded door to the reactor chamber. Warning signs in multiple languages covered every surface. Radiation detectors clicked frantically as energy levels climbed toward critical. 1 minute and 31 seconds remaining. She opened the door and stepped inside. The warp core towered above her like a metal mountain, its surface crackling, with energy discharges. Control panels lined the walls, their displays flashing red warnings about imminent failure. Nari had studied warp core theory in her engineering classes, but she had never actually worked with one before. She ran to the manual control station and began studying the readouts. The core was building toward a cascade failure that would tear space-time apart, but the process could be stopped if someone manually redirected the energy buildup into the Academy's main power grid. It would overload every system on the station, but it would prevent the space-time distortion. The problem was that redirecting that much energy required someone to be physically connected to the control system. The person doing it would be electrocuted by billions of volts of power. 57 seconds remaining. Nari placed her hands on the manual control interface. She could feel the energy building in the core, like standing next to a thunderstorm that was about to strike. But as she prepared to redirect the power flow, something unexpected happened. The chamber door opened and Dr. Park Juno stumbled inside. "Nari, stop," he called out. "I have been analyzing your survival patterns. You do not have to die." "There is no other way to stop the overload," she said without taking her hands off. "The controls." "Yes, there is, but you have to trust me." 38 seconds remaining. Dr. Park ran to another control station on the opposite side of the chamber. "You survive impossible situations by making choices that seem wrong but turn out right. What if the right choice this time is not to sacrifice yourself?" "What are you talking about?" "The warp core is not really overloading. It is trying to stabilize itself in a new configuration. Instead of fighting the process, what if we help it?" 26 seconds remaining. "That is insane. The energy buildup will tear the Academy apart. Only if we try to contain it. But if we let it flow naturally, it might create a stable warp bubble around the entire Academy." Nari looked at the readouts. The energy patterns were strange, not quite matching what she had learned about warp core failures. Maybe Dr. Park was right. Maybe this was not a malfunction but an evolution. 15 seconds remaining. "What do you need me to do?" she asked. "Instead of redirecting the energy into the power grid, help me channel it into the Academy's structural framework. We can turn the entire station into a warp-capable vessel. That should be impossible. So should surviving everything that has tried to kill you. But you do it anyway." 8 seconds remaining. Nari made her choice. Instead of trying to stop the overload, she helped Dr. Park guide the energy flow into the Academy's hull plating and structural supports. The station began to glow with the same energy that powered Starship warp drives. 3 seconds remaining. 2 seconds. 1 second. The warp core reached critical energy levels and discharged everything into the Academy's structure. But instead of exploding, the energy formed a stable bubble around the entire station. Suddenly, the Academy was moving. Not through normal space, but through the warped dimensions that allowed faster-than-light travel. Through the chamber windows, Nari could see stars streaking past as the station jumped away from the battle zone. "We did it," Dr. Park said, collapsing against his control station. "We actually did it." Nari looked at the readings. The Academy was now traveling through warp space at incredible speed. They were already dozens of light years away from where the Vorthon fleet had been attacking. "Where are we going?" she asked. I have no idea, but we are alive and so is everyone else on the academy. For the first time in her life, Kim Nari had survived a deadly situation without being the sole survivor. Everyone lived, the academy was safe. Even the Vorthon warriors who had attacked them were unharmed, left behind in normal space as the station jumped to safety. But something else had changed too. As Nari looked at the warp energy readings, she began to understand what had really happened. The academy had not just become warp-capable. It had become something new entirely. The experimental warp core had merged with her survival instincts somehow. She could sense other timelines, other possibilities. She could see the choices that would lead to life and the choices that would lead to death. And she was not the only one who could feel it. Throughout the academy, human cadets and instructors were reporting strange sensations. They could sense danger before it happened. They could make tactical decisions that seemed impossible but worked perfectly. The academy emerged from warp space 3 days later, near a human colony world. As news of their survival spread through human space, military commanders began requesting transfers to study at the academy. They wanted to learn how humans had turned a disaster into a tactical advantage. Dr. Park Juno's research took on new importance. He discovered that humans had been unconsciously manipulating probability through quantum-level decision-making. Every impossible survival was actually accessing alternate timelines, where different choices led to different outcomes. The academy became humanity's most important military asset. Kim Nari was promoted to Director of Human Combat Psychology, tasked with teaching other humans how to access their survival instincts deliberately, rather than by accident. The war with the Vorthon Empire continued, but now it was different. Human soldiers learned to sense danger before it happened. They made tactical decisions that defied logic but achieved victory. Ships that should have been destroyed found ways to escape. Battles that should have been lost became stunning victories. The Vorthons, who prided themselves on logical warfare, found themselves constantly outmaneuvered by human forces that seemed to break the rules of physics. Their computer models could not predict human behavior because humans operated on principles that transcended normal cause and effect. 5 years after the Academy incident, Admiral Kim Nari stood in her new office overlooking the expanded training facilities. The Academy had grown into a massive complex where humans from across the galaxy came to learn about their unique abilities. Through her window, she could see cadets practicing the techniques she had developed. They were learning to trust their instincts, learning to make choices that seemed wrong but felt right, learning to survive by being willing to sacrifice themselves for others. But most importantly, they were learning that being human meant never accepting that a situation was hopeless. Tae-hyun, now a colonel, entered her office carrying the latest reports from the front lines. "The Vorthons are requesting peace negotiations," he said with a smile. "Apparently, they have decided that fighting humans is too unpredictable to be worth the cost." "What are their terms?" Nari asked. "Complete withdrawal from human space, non-aggression pact, and they want to establish cultural exchange programs to study human tactical thinking." Nari laughed. "They want to learn how we do it." "Can you blame them? We have turned warfare into an art form. We win battles that should be impossible to win." "Not just battles," Nari corrected. "We win by making sure everyone goes home alive." She looked at the training reports on her desk. The Academy's survival rates had improved dramatically, not because fewer people died, but because humans had learned to apply their survival instincts collectively instead of individually. "What about the other species?" Nari asked. "Are they adapting to human tactics?" "Some of them. The Nexari have been particular.